And
Perfect.
we're good. We're recording.
Perfect. Okay, so I put some sources over there in the chat.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have one as well, focusing on LGBTQ youth from healthsafechildren.org. It seems to be pretty cool.
I have one. I'll put it in the chat probably, or I'll send it on our document. One for trauma with grief. Because I have a couple students who have lost parents. So I think it's a really good one to deal with grief or like sickness and illness and stuff like that. So I'll throw that on the document that I shared with you guys at some point when we turn that in.
Cool.
Okay, so should we introduce ourselves and then talk?
Yeah, and I think what we're supposed to do is kind of share each of our sources.
And what we found out, like when we were doing research and things like that, correct?
Yeah, I think we're supposed to talk about like the research part of it. Like,
okay.
Yeah, that's what I got from it.
Okay.
I'll start off. Okay. Hi, I'm Hillary Metzger. I teach speech, debate, acting, and forensics at Leavenworth High School.
I am Marin Berkeley James. I go by Berkeley, and I teach psychology at Basehor Linwood High School.
I'm Jennifer Hemingway, and I teach business and all computer technology-based courses for Stafford Middle School High School, so 8 through 12 in Stafford, Kansas.
Perfect.
Cool.
Okay, so I know on the document, oh, can you guys see me at my screen when I do that? Sorry, I'm new to this whole hosting thing.
No, you're good. You'd
Okay,
have to click.
So we are talking about trauma and being trauma informed when it comes to being in the classroom, and those kinds of things. So is there a reason like that you guys immediately went to that subject specifically instead of like racism or something like that?
I teach in a school where I have 2 Hispanic boys in my classes, and other than that, it's a white school. So
okay.
I didn't really have anything to speak to about the racist thing. I'm actually very active with the League of Women Voters in criminal justice reform with aspects to that, but I didn't have that in my classroom, and so I didn't feel like I could speak to it.
Fair.
That's the reason.
I feel similarly in Basehor in that there's not a huge demographic difference. There's not a lot of diversity. When I was looking up statistics, it was like 84% Caucasian in our school district. Now my children go to Olathe schools, and that is not the same thing, which I am grateful for them for that too, because I think that's just what I want my kids to grow up with. And I'm hoping we can do some things in Basehor if we can't have, the diversity to at least educate on the diversity. But I agree. I think trauma affects the classroom I work in. What I know racism affects it, but it's much more prevalent in day-to-day stuff. What about you, Hillary?
I chose trauma because, especially with public speaking this year, I had a lot of kids who were traumatized by events in their life. And so we had to be very careful about what kind of speeches they chose to do, especially anytime a speech was like an important moment in their life or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
So I always, said, okay, well, you have to give trigger warnings if you're going to talk about something traumatic. So I think it came up a lot in speech last semester. So
I can see that. Did you ask your students? I don't know if we're allowed to talk about this. I'm just curious, though I'm sure he won't mind. did you ask like before they picked a topic to clear it with you? Or was it more like, hey, if you're going to talk about this, make sure everyone is aware as it comes up?
Oh yeah, no. All topics got to be approved by me
Okay.
first. And then some of them, one kid, Joshua Seguera, did like a speech on how someone brought a gun to a party, and like his brother got the guy to put the gun away. So yeah, I mean, I could have done racism because we have like a really diverse population because we're a military school. So
That makes, oh yeah.
yeah. So like, yes, we are primarily like Caucasian based, including staff. Like there's only 2 Indigenous people on the entire staff, and me and one other teacher. That's it. Like, but they're trying to fix that. They're getting
Right.
better about that. Like they have been hiring people who are more ethnically diverse, and that's dope.
That's nice.
But
Yeah.
yeah, but most of my students are like BIPOC. So I actually could have talked about that, but I wanted to focus on the trauma because I feel like that's something that's like universal to all my students.
Agree.
Absolutely. Particularly the last couple of years.
Agree.
Mhm.
Agree.
So we're a Title I school with more than 65% of them identified as disadvantaged. And the town itself is, it's systemic. It's multi-generational poverty.
Mhm.
They don't know how to get out, to dig out from underneath it and
Right.
make decisions, or it's just part of who they are. And so I found a lot of this to be very helpful in helping them move on. At our school, every teacher teaches SEL. It's part of our advisory at the end of the day. So, we've got the physics teacher and the chemistry teacher teaching, and I teach that as well. And it comes up, that they live in homes where there isn't enough anything.
Right.
And there are addiction and dependency issues, and serial monogamy. There's one girl whose mom, she had 3 different family units over the course of the past year. So I just really felt like this was something that I could at least take away and hopefully apply
Right.
some of these techniques.
So do you live in Stafford? Actually, like you live there?
No, I live in Kingman.
Okay.
And it's interesting because we adopted a son from Shanghai, China. And in Kingman Norwich School District, he was one of very few people of color. We moved him to Hutchison.
Okay. So you're close enough to Hutch.
Yep. Well, my husband taught at Hutch Community College, so he was going up there anyway.
Okay.
So yes, we thought that was a better situation for him with the diversity at Hutch. As a matter of fact, the first time I went to a band concert at Hutch after we moved him, I was in tears just looking at the beautiful diversity and possibility.
Right.
It was amazing. Our son, a boy came to school. He was at school less than a month here in Kingman District. And the kids said to our son, go ask him what he is because you look like him. He
Wow.
was Cherokee. He was Cherokee. So, yep.
And I think, I think we get, as we were talking about, like, do we do racism? Do we do trauma? But I think, there's so much trauma experienced when people don't look like you or believe like you, or don't even take the time to understand you, or don't know how to even ask.
Yeah.
Right.
Just even names, calling people names or using sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Hillary, but like using slang instead of, you know, words that are just kinder, and they don't even think about the connotation that it impacts
Well,
those kids.
and because I think it's all kind of linked too, because like you said, like the kid who looked like him,
Yeah.
who was Cherokee, which by the way is like mostly what I am, like it's like there's this assumption that all people of color are going to look a certain way.
Right.
And that's intergenerational trauma right there.
For sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, yeah. So, oof, yeah. I mean,
Well,
it's
and
all-
just even like calling, like, you know, I grew up in Oklahoma, so I would have said you are American Indian, or I see, and like the fact that you say indigenous, like I know I say that at work, but like in my head I was thinking indigenous, ah ha ha ha. I had to get there faster. Not because I'm trying not to be uneducated, but I mean, you know, you grow up and you hear these words and you hear these things, and we don't even realize how the connotation that comes with those words.
Right.
I had a
And
kid,
once you know, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah,
I'm
once you know,
sorry.
you do better, right? Like hopefully,
Right.
that's the goal.
Hopefully. Yes.
yeah, I had a kid call me white passing. I mean, well, okay, so in Emily's defense, she didn't understand the history of white passing because she's white. And I had to explain it to her. And so I actually had a multiracial student in the room when I explained it to her.
So
And
tell me
that-
what that means. Cause see, I don't think, do I know?
So like, I mean, white passing is a term that was used for indigenous people, Black people, any person of color, back when being a person of color was like meant either slavery or a low income job. And so if you could pass for white.
So you passed for white.
Yeah, exactly. Because I'm pale in the winter, pale, compared to like how dark I am in the summer.
Because you're supposed to look a certain way.
Because I was supposed to look a certain way. And so I had to explain to her why a phrase like white passing is part of that intergenerational trauma. When you use
Yes.
phrases like white
Okay, that makes,
passing,
yes, thank you.
it's got a historical context to it that's like
And it's
very
deep and thick and heavy.
because some of my ancestors were slaves. Like we know, we've seen paperwork. So it's like these kids don't know. And so it's like, why are we not informing them of these things?
Right. One, I mean, this is a little bit of a sidebar and I'll put the link too, but have you guys read the book White Privilege?
Mhm.
Not to get political or anything like that, but just, have you read it?
No, I want to read White Fragility first.
That's the one. Sorry.
White Fragility. I want to read it. It looks amazing.
I mean, like I will tear up. It's so good. Like
So good.
I mean, serious white girl. Okay. Just straight up white girl. You know, but so much knowledge and information. Oh, like I'm teary. So much good information on how not to continue to be the society where we treat people differently, or that some race is better than the it is beautiful. White Fragility, that's it. Thank you.
They're both books, by the way.
Oh,
Yes.
well, see, I was thinking for some reason I was thinking Privilege. I've read White Fragility.
Yeah, it's on my summer reading list. Because I mean,
It's heavy, but it's beautiful.
yeah, but it looks, I've heard really good stuff about it, you know.
I actually listened to it. So listening to them talk about going places and feeling their intergenerational trauma and feeling what others must have felt, and, you know, places their family was a slave, or family where their family was taken into custody. I mean, just, I don't know, sorry, sidebar. But it really is, I feel like when talking about trauma, it's never just surface stuff.
Mm-mm.
Jennifer, how do you feel like, I'm wondering, like with when you talked about like multi-generational, like poverty and, you know, kind of how do they dig themselves out? Are there ways in your school and or like practical, like not obviously, like you're not saying college is the only way, right?
Right.
So what are
So
some of the
that's
things
part
you
of,
guys are doing to help them?
well, that's part of the personal finances required.
Love it.
Those are the only two classes that are required of all of them, no matter where they fall on the spectrum,
That's
is
perfect.
government and civics and personal finance. So otherwise they might be elsewhere for core, but they come as seniors to myself and a fantastic woman named Lainey, and we present them with kind of adulthood,
Right.
options. I'll tell you what, I'm sorry, Mr. Ramsey, but you cannot budget your way out of poverty. That's a cop out.
Agree.
We
It's
teach
not.
them those things. We teach, how to do taxes and how to advocate for yourself, how to understand. I love, it's called NGPF. It's a curriculum. And in there, they even talk about behavioral economics. And
Oh,
we do a whole unit on that, about how the world is designed to influence you out of your own money and your own property rights, and how to know that that's happening. And that the app doesn't necessarily work, and it's all just people. It's still all people. So you have to be looking out for yourself. You have to be double checking. Um, there's a whole series of books and documentaries about the unbanked and the people who use the usurious check cashing places, and
mhm.
they do not have the wherewithal to open a bank account.
Right.
And so I walk them step by step through all of that, and what does it really look like? True budgeting, planning for your future, being intentional, all of those things, because they don't have any idea. And I send things home, and I try to use websites that, because I do have two Hispanic kids. I had one Hispanic girl this year for personal finance, and she did want to go to college. She's gonna be first generation going to college, but
Fantastic.
she didn't know how to do the FAFSA
Right.
because they only speak Spanish at home. She misses school if her folks have to go to the doctor because she has to go interpret for them. So all government websites, you can click up in usually the right-hand corner, and it'll switch the whole thing to Spanish. She did not know that. People don't know that.
Right.
I'm
Little
like, so
thing. Yeah.
find a bank that does the same thing, that the website switches to Spanish so that you know what's happening, and you can help your parents know what's happening, what the fees are, how to, look for that and plan for that and be intentional in what you do. And I have to applaud the farmers who make up our school board who made that decision, because they are wealthy farmers. They are farmers with their own airplanes and $200,000 or $300,000 pieces of machinery on their farm, and
Right.
they recognized that the way forward for our community was to get these kids out of that situation. So
That's amazing.
yeah,
Do you
yeah, it
feel
is.
like
So
it's a do you feel like it's a loop? Like, because I think back to like Kids on Reservations, and
mhm,
like that's low income too. And I know that like one
yeah,
of the main struggles for reservation kids is they feel like they can't get out.
Right.
And they feel like because their parents had to deal with it, they, like res kids, feel like they're trapped. So
yes.
do you feel like if we made more of an effort to give them those tools, they could kind of put the power back in their own hands?
I hope so. I mean, that's what we're trying to build, is absolutely tools is the word that we use. And there's also a whole set of destigmatizing, we had a science teacher who, if you were female, he steered you towards CNA. And if he were male, he'd steered you to being in electronics, electrician, or yes. So it's moving past all of those
Mhm.
boxes that we plug these kids into, and showing them that there's opportunity, and there's apprenticeships, and there's just so much available. And yeah, it's not just college. We're not just
Right.
because those kids are not the ones who need us.
Right.
Those kids are going there anyway.
Right.
Mhm.
So
It's those kids that don't know that there's this beautiful, or I never really knew, we weren't taught, at least, that there were lots of options. I mean, to me it was college, master's degree, job, move, live your life. But
right.
there's this beautiful, and I've only obviously taught for a year, this beautiful in between after high school, where there are these amazing jobs and amazing opportunities and cool, not, I mean, some of them are not the coolest jobs, but some of them are really, I'm fascinated. I mean, like, I was working with a couple students and I was like, this is really amazing. Like, I didn't know that all this stuff was available, and I didn't know you didn't have to go to college for this or that or the other thing. And my kids may not, we've now started talking about it in our own house, like, just because your mom and dad went to college for 10 years each does not have anything to do with, you may want to do something that doesn't even attend college, and that is phenomenal. But I think
Right.
my generation, especially, like, I don't know how old you are, Jen, but like my generation, like, we were just told college was the only way to get ahead in life.
That's true.
And there's
I'm 55, by the way.
okay, so yeah,
55.
so you're probably with like me, like it was college and then have a job.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep. So, and then not have a job once you had kids.
Right. Oh, and then you stay home. Well, which I did. Sounds horrible, but
Yeah.
yes. And then you stay home.
No, and I loved it. And I'm grateful for that opportunity, which
Me
women
too.
today don't have that option. That's a luxury now.
Right. And that's what some of my students are like, oh, Miss James, you're just blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, what I am is lucky. And I realized I did have the privilege that I had a husband who went to college for 12 years and could pay our bills for 15 years. I'm
Right.
super lucky and grateful. But they're
Yeah.
like, why are you doing this now? And I'm like, because it's fun.
Well,
Because
and that's the
to have our
so
thing.
my favorite word is opportunity.
Yes.
So that's kind of what I feel like my whole job is to find ways to give them opportunity.
I love
So
that.
I do a lot of certifications, which is why I teach so many independent study classes, because they're doing certifications. I had one boy who he's not a great student, or he wasn't a great student. Sophomore, bad grades, perpetual absence. And then I offered Microsoft certifications. He did all of them. And then starting in March, he started on the Adobe certifications.
I mean,
And he gets amazing scores. And the guy that sold me the software that we use to test, because we're out in the middle of nowhere, so I can't drive him to Wichita to test.
right.
That's that's an hour and a half away. So the guy that sold us the software to test, he told me about a girl who did the Adobe certifications and went straight out of her senior year of high school to work for NASA.
Hey.
That's the stuff right there.
$78,000 a year. Right.
Awesome.
Seriously. Yes.
Hell yeah. Pardon
Yeah.
my
No.
Oh no. Yeah, we're all high school teachers.
I mean, we're all adults, but
Right, we're grown.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
That's the stuff these kiddos need to see. It doesn't, the letters behind your name, where you came from, like, it
Right.
doesn't have to matter as long as you're willing to try and find what you're good at. Like, find your lane.
And like, pardon me, but slap that shit on a resume and put out some applications, because that's the one thing COVID did, was provide everybody with the opportunity to take those skills and sit in your own damn living room in the middle of nowhere, Kansas, and make a living.
Amen. Because let me tell you, my dentist husband was like, I can't go to the office. I can't see people. Now, does he have a lot of other skills? Of course. But that's not what he's been training for his whole life, right? So there were people, like everyone else, like not everyone, lots of our friends were just didn't slow them down at all. And he was like, this is the weirdest thing I've ever seen. Like, I can't work. So there's nothing more important than being marketable and being able to use what you have right in front of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think anytime we can teach them any kind of a life skill, it's valuable. I mean, I tell them this consistently in debate and speech. I say, like, I don't want you to just leave here and know how to write a speech. I want you to have the confidence to get up and speak in front of people. I want you to have the ability to articulate what you're feeling in a way that's educated, so you don't, as opposed to like a violent alternative. Like, that's why you're learning these things.
Right. They think I'm never going to have to give a speech when I grow up. You're right, you won't. But what you will have to do is either tell someone you feel uncomfortable, or present an idea, or come up with a plan, or what if everything's going wrong at work?
Advocate
way
for
to fix
yourself.
it.
Yeah.
And you have to advocate, exactly. Advocate for a better way. Even if it's just to your family whom you struggle having a conversation with. And setting boundaries, all those things to me, like, share in those skills.
Which I'm going to pop in with my source real quick, because that kind of leads into my source, which is adopting a trauma-informed approach for LGBTQ youth. And
Love it.
one of the things I kind of wanted to talk about was, I have a lot of non-binary students and a lot of non-gender conforming students. And I even have interacted with one boy who is transgender. Actually, I have 2 transgender students who I interact with frequently. And I mean, talking about like trauma-informed students, and how to educate them, I kind of had to educate myself in the process. And that's kind of what this source is saying, like, knowing how to ask questions, knowing what terms to use. Like, I was teaching acting 1 and I was teaching stage combat, and one of the boys in there wears a binder because they can't afford to have an operation. And we had to be really careful that he fell an appropriate way so he didn't damage his binder, because he couldn't afford an expensive binder. And he had to explain to me how a binder works. And so I kind of just asked all these questions, because I went on a bit of a tangent. I was like, can you swim in it? How does it work? Do you shower in it? And luckily they were really understanding about it. And I think giving students the tools to ask those questions as well, in a way that is both respectful and non-triggering, I feel like that is a tool that we could use to prevent any kind of a trigger.
Great.
And that's one of the things kind of highlighted in this.
I think a lot of students, like you said, like, I've only had a couple. I actually thought going into this I would have a ton, I was all ready for the whole, pick your, let me know what gender you want to go by. And I had none, of course, at first. But I found that they realize that curiosity equals like caring. And so as a teacher, I mean, maybe not from students so much, but like you said, you give them the skill set. But like when I would ask questions like you did, it was more about, they knew that I was actually trying to help and understand, so that I did use the correct words, or I did help them through the process of whatever we were doing. But like asking those questions, like, can you swim in it? It's genuine, like, caring. Like, I'm curious because it matters to you. And to me, that means I'm showing up for you in a way that says what you do is what you do matters to me.
And I think like when kids see someone like you doing that, it encourages them to do that. Because even teenagers, like, they're learning from example. Right. So if you can show them, hey, this is how you ask. And yes, it's okay to ask. It's better to ask, actually. Because then you don't run the risk of saying something that's going to trigger them. And I think that in itself is a trauma informed approach.
Right.
Trying to think if there's anything else I want to highlight in this article. Family acceptance was another part of this article that I thought was really important. A lot of my transgender kids, their parents do not accept them. And a lot of my non-binary students, their parents don't know or don't accept them. And so I think also finding out when you use their they them pronouns, but when you're speaking to their parent, you need to like make a note to yourself, okay, you need to refer to them by their dead name.
Which is hard.
Mhm.
It is
Or at
hard.
least I don't have any in my actual classroom, but I help with the Gay Student Alliance kind of stuff. And so I'm like, oh, so I talked to a teacher, like, how do you do that? And she's like, I write myself giant notes everywhere on my laptop as I'm talking to that parent so that I don't get myself in trouble and or get this. Really, it's more about getting the student in trouble.
Yeah, don't get
Right.
them outed,
Right.
lack of a better term. Those were my main takeaways from this article.
Awesome.
And I think that that's enough.
And you
to fill
shared
out.
that with us, right? In the chat, or you'll share it on the document?
I actually put the link on the document.
Perfect.
It's kind of lengthy, but it is a good source.
It sounds awesome. Jennifer, do you want to go next on your source, or do you want me to go?
You can go.
Okay. Well, I actually, so earlier I know I said I forgot to put my source up here, but I didn't. I just forgot I had pulled it up here in my and all the things I have like 19 tabs open over here. One of the things I was looking for to something that you said earlier, Jennifer, reminded me, and that's why I was like, oh, I had that link right here. And I put it in the chat right here, and I'll put it on our document, but it was about trauma-informed school strategies during COVID. And one of the reasons I read a lot about this article was that I lost my father-in-law this year to COVID, as well as my sister lost her father-in-law to COVID. And they both live here in Oklahoma, which is very much COVID is not a real thing kind of place. And Baser's similar in that the mask situation wasn't always easy to keep people in line. And I'm fine with, you do you believe whatever you need to believe, but to me, rules are rules, right? So we were pretty strict on masks. But one of the reasons this stuck out to me, and Jennifer, when you said that you had that student that had to miss school to go to doctor's appointments because of the translating, I have a student who is ESL in my classroom all day. He's with me, but his ESL teacher comes in with me in the mornings during English. When his English teacher comes in, she comes in and helps do stuff. And he speaks, I didn't honestly know that he even spoke Spanish in the beginning because he doesn't at school. But his parents don't speak a lot of English, and his mom got super sick with COVID. And he was missing a ton because when she was in the hospital, he was there for the little siblings. When she came home, he was there taking care of her. He even got some truancy letters, district wide, because he had just missed so much. And mom, they didn't care because it was just the way things needed to be. But one of the things I found was just the overall negative connotation that COVID had. Talking about it not being real, or people don't even really get that sick. It's just like a cold. No matter what you believe, to this sweet boy, his mom had been in the hospital a ton. People had lost family members. That was a huge conversation that we had to have multiple times. And I hate that they finally got it. But like when my father-in-law passed away, they were like, how did he die? And I was like, COVID. And they were like, oh, wait, what? They just looked at me like, oh, if you could lose somebody, it got really real for them, which I appreciate that they're, team Miss James most of the day. But it's very interesting. And it talked right here about sorry, hold on. it just talked about like creating routines, because we oftentimes get out of routine when things, with COVID, like whether it was Zoom or things shifted or teachers shifted or teachers had to be quarantined. Keeping that specific organization during the day was really helpful to those students. I really appreciated that, because we did have a ton of, maybe it was like right around Christmas time that I don't know about if you guys, like Olathe shut down schools. I don't know if you guys had to live in Leavenworth. Did you guys shut?
No, no.
Basehor didn't
You
shut.
guys,
I know
Rachel's emailing us.
Oh,
I replied all just so maybe she could see it that way.
I love
I
it.
didn't get a return on the oh, I did. Address not found.
Ugh.
Oh, it's because it's FSHU instead of FHSU. That's why. Hang on.
But did we all do that? Did you mute yourself, Hillary?
Whoops. Yeah, I did. I definitely did that and didn't
You're
pick
okay,
up
real life.
that.
Okay, so I sent it to the Rachel with FH, and hopefully she'll get it.
Okay,
Cool.
hopefully it'll ask her to come in. Did she think it was 6 o'clock?
Yes, she did. She said in the email to all of us, "Hey guys, we're doing the call at 6." So
And we're like, hi, sweet girl, it was at 5.
yes.
We'll let her share her source. Okay. Well, and I put this in the link there, but it was a really good source about just like establishing routine, establishing understanding, and I actually went over to the middle school for 1 hour every day to help with like preventing kids from being in alternative education is what they called it. I don't know. I think I was just babysitting. But I had one student who got bullied a ton for wearing a mask once masks were taken off the requirements. And I was so proud of him. One day he just stood up and he was like, here's the thing. I was like, Miss James, he's like, Miss James, can I say something? And I was like, 100%. And he was like, my sister has Down syndrome, and I care more about my sister getting sick than I do about what you say to me. And I was just like, there it is right there. And I had said that, many times we had talked about kind words, blah, 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 all the things. But it finally took him standing up for himself and just saying, you can make fun of me all you want, but I'm going to wear my mask because my sister matters more. And I think that was really important for number one, for him to see that they listened, because it was a bunch of 8th graders and one 6th grader.
That's awesome.
And he, and it was also too, and then we talked about what are some other reasons people could be having on masks that you don't understand. What if they're terrified and it's okay to be scared of a virus? Or what if they have grandparents at home? Or what if, who the heck knows? So we talked a lot about perspective taking, and like, we don't know what someone's going through. So, it was really good, but I really liked this. It wasn't an awesome article, but it did definitely talk about some things that I definitely noticed in going through that with my students and trying to figure out how to help them, navigate this weird thing we're all going through.
Yeah.
A shared trauma, really, of different kind. We're sharing the same time frame. We're not all feeling it the same. And so I think that's really important. Because some kids obviously went through it differently than we did. And my kids loved quarantine, my own children. Like, they talk about quarantine was the best thing that ever happened. My students, on the other hand, cried when it was summertime because they didn't want to go home. So I understand.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, please.
So my kids are college age. So I have one that's in graduate school now, but when COVID, hi, Rachel.
Hi. Oh my gosh.
How are you?
I thought, okay, on the email, I thought it said 6 after we said 5. So I was like, oh, okay, 6. And then, yeah, I never gotten the links. I don't know what's wrong with my email, but I'm here. I'm here now.
So we're just right now talking about trauma with COVID. And then we're just each sharing our source that we really kind of delved into on trauma, and just sharing what we found out about it, and then just sharing our thoughts.
Okay.
So Hillary's already gone. I just went and Jennifer was gonna comment and then I think it's her turn.
Okay. Thank you.
So I was just gonna say, my kids were at the time a senior in high school in March of 2020. I had
Oh.
a senior, and I had a junior in college.
Oh my gosh.
So KU locked everything down, put them all on online school, and sent him home in March. So he was home, and they were both fine with it because we lived overseas for 13 years. And so they were often doing online classes
Okay.
because, that's how you do American history and Colorado
Right,
history and those
right.
things. So that was fine with them. And like your kids, they thought that was great. They didn't have a problem with that. My senior in high school, though, he lost everything. Everything
You
got
missed out
canceled.
on all the fun things.
Yeah. So no graduation, no prom, no all the things. And it was hard, but it was harder on other people's kids. I watched it be harder on other people's kids.
Yes.
9 kids left Kingman County for KU that fall of 2020. And by Christmas, 7 had quit.
Oh,
Just couldn't handle, big city Lawrence in lockdown,
yeah.
because Lawrence wasn't taking any prisoners. Lawrence was very COVID aware. So, and Kingman is not. Kingman is a denier place. So
Okay, that's fair.
yeah, they struggled. So yeah. So anyway, my sources, Rachel, are in the chat. I had a lot of them, just because I overdo, but I'd like to talk
Oh, and
about
you helped
GLSEN.
me out with one that I was looking for, so I really appreciate it.
No, that's great. Yeah, no, and I love Edutopia. But anyway, I love GLSEN. I am like I said, Rachel, I teach at Stafford High School, middle and high school. I teach 8th through 12th. We have 92 students this past year, 5th through 12th grade. So
What's everybody's subjects?
Go ahead, Jennifer.
we I think at the very beginning, Hillary had suggested trauma. And so that's kind of
Oh,
what
I
we all went
mean,
with.
what does everybody teach specifically?
Sorry, duh. I'm
No,
sorry.
you're good.
I teach business and computers. So
Okay.
I teach psychology.
everybody else?
I teach art. I was just curious.
Hillary teaches speech and forensics. She's not muted,
okay.
so
Okay, thank you. I just
Yvette,
wanted to see.
no,
Yeah.
you're fine.
So I teach in a small farming community, and I had one student this year want to change their pronouns to they, them.
Wow.
And I'm from Denver, and I lived in Australia and England for 13 years. And it doesn't matter what my personal beliefs are as far as any of the LGBTQ subjects go. I firmly believe that we embrace each of our students where they are, period. And so I assume that that's where we all were. And I teach down a hallway where we have 4 classrooms in my little hallway. And 2 of the teachers stood in the hallway in front of students in the morning, first hour, everybody's going to class, and said they were not going to call anybody other than she or he because God had created only 2 genders. And I should just tell you that I'm a former president of the League of Women Voters. I helped plan the Women's March Air Capital for the past however many years. I have always thought of myself as outspoken and an activist. And I sat in my wheelchair and stared at her, the woman who was being very loud about it. They were both agreeing with each other. Stared at her with my mouth open, and I didn't say the things that I wanted to say because I was brand new to the school, brand new to this gig. I am very late to TTT. I was a fund accountant for Janus Capital for a long time. Anyway, and then I spent the whole morning just on fire.
Mhm.
And when you're mad, it informs your classroom, whether you want it to or not. And I thought all of these students deserve better than what they're getting right now. And this student in particular. So I got on GLSEN because I've worked with GLSEN. I've, attended their fundraisers and everything else. And I thought, I've never needed GLSEN before, but I need them now. I sure need them right this minute. And they have so many resources for teachers. They are phenomenal. And I printed out safe space signs and stuck them in the windows of my classroom. And I let that speak for me for a couple of days while I simmered down and decided how I was going to speak to what had happened. So I have watched people intentionally misgender this student over the course of the year. And the thing that hurt my heart the most was it was not the students. The other kids don't care. They all already knew. I mean, there's 14 kids in that entire graduating class. They all already know. They've known each other all their lives. They, they could pick on each other and be awful to each other, but they're not going to let anybody else do it. And so they handled it. And I just supported all of that. And out of that came, we're calling it the Kindness Club because we cannot call it a gay and lesbian alliance.
Right now,
we have to call it the Kindness Club. But I have 4 football players who want everybody to feel like they want to come to school. Their words. And you know what? When football players show up in their jerseys with little kid books and read to little kids, change will happen. So what was awful became okay. And in large part because GLSEN helped me figure out how to handle it. So anyway, that's my source.
My rainbow nails say, yay, girl.
You're gonna make me cry.
I mean, I'm like, this very honestly, very Christian, used to be very Republican woman says, all people rock, all people love, all, I mean, I know we're not supposed to get political and I will not, but these kids are just babies and they just need to be shown that they matter no matter what. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And I think adults make it a bigger deal than children.
They do.
They do. I mean, it takes you 5 seconds to write down a list of kids who have different pronouns. It takes you 5 seconds.
Just like my name is Marin, but it's not really Marin. Like when teachers pay attention and call me Berkeley, like it matters to me because that's what I go by. It's the same thing to me.
Well, and we've always used they when you don't know. Somebody has a name like Marin that you don't know until you meet that person.
Or Berkeley, I get, is Mr. Berkeley there? No, I'm a girl, but I don't care. It doesn't hurt my feelings.
Right. But I would say, do you know if they're coming?
Me too.
Because I wouldn't know. We've always done that. As little kids, that's what we did. Now, all of a sudden, it's a problem. No, it's not a problem. You love people where they are.
Exactly.
I mean, being Two-Spirit, which is not the exact same thing, but like coming from an Indigenous perspective, like this is not something new. Two-Spirit is something that like we've had for generations. I mean, like, and there's multiple cultures that have it. I just don't understand why people can't seem to wrap their brains around this. I mean, in India, in like all over the world for thousands of years. And like you said, Jennifer, it's just now a problem.
Right.
People need to get out of their own way.
We had an issue here. I teach at Concordia, and it's a very rural, conservative community, and I do not fit into that category very well. And at one of our assemblies, we were trying to pass a bond issue, and our superintendent, which I don't know what was going through his head, but at our assembly, he put on the screen in front of everybody, the whole community, and all of the kids had to come to it and everything. And he asked them, what do you not like about the current school? Because we were trying to build a new school. And one of the students, it could be anonymous, one of the students wrote gays, and I about lost it. I'm like, and he doesn't even see this on the screen. And one of my best friends who's a teacher there ran down there, and she was like, you got to get that off the screen. Like, that makes our community look so bad. The student body, the superintendent, I was livid. So everything you're talking about hits very home. I was so upset. I was like, how can we just like ignore what's on the screen right now? You're marginalizing this group like negatively in front of everybody. Oh, it was killing me. So I get it.
Yeah.
Hard.
They're already struggling with so many things. Why
Mhm.
are we dividing everybody else more?
Mhm.
Well, I think that's this poor generation. I feel sorry for actually this generation. And I mean that not like, oh, there's poor them. I mean, like, come on, people. Like, let's go. Because more like our, not even my generation, maybe even a little, I don't know. I feel like we are not as open to what we should be. And by that, I just mean willing to try new things. Like, it's our way or the highway. And I just don't understand. That's not, it's not how the world works. And I'm not sure how we all got to this age. Like, whether you're a teacher or a doctor or a politician, or I don't really care what you are, but how do we all get to the point where we think that we can decide what's okay for somebody else? And it just feels like it's a lot of that going on in a school. You can't have a new pronoun, or you can't, whatever, just
Wear a mask, or
why can't we not wear a
Yeah.
mask, or why can we not do this, or why can we not do that? Like, just for the love.
I love that you said meeting them where they are. I like that phrase quite a bit, and I'm gonna steal it because I
it's
feel
not
like
mine. So yeah.
yeah, but
Yeah.
I feel like I consistently have to advocate for my kids who
Yes.
are part of the LGBTQ plus community. So meeting them where they are, that's nice.
So
Agreed.
Rachel, tell us what you found out.
Yeah, okay. So I have some notes that I pulled up that I took. I used that first source. I don't have it written down, but that first source that he listed under that one section of different links to things. And I looked on there first, and then I also looked at like some infographics of like really brief concepts. And I wrote down a couple things that I thought were really important with working with traumatized students. So I'll briefly go over this. I wrote down creating a safe space, not just where they feel okay to talk, but also a space they feel comfortable to be in, including predictability with like a structure and a routine, because some students and a majority of students really need that structure and somewhere safe they feel like they belong. I also wrote down learning how to use breathing techniques and regulate anxiety with your students, watch for any triggers that might happen. And of course, connecting and building a relationship. We talk about that all the time, I feel like, and it is really important. Learn about their interests and what they seem to talk about a lot, and really hone in on that. Which I have an example of that. One of my students, kind of higher on the spectrum, and a lot of the students like make fun of him and just call him out and all sorts of stuff. And he has trouble in class, and he was getting to the point where he was really going wild in class, and I'm trying to figure out, how do I de-escalate this situation? And I kind of just take him to the side and I talk about the things he's really interested in, nothing pertaining to class. And from there, I can like build a relationship with him, and it was way better the rest of the semester. But it was bringing him aside and connecting with him and being like, I understand, and let's talk about something else. You're interested in cars. Let's talk about that. Do you want to build a car? Because it's an art class. And kind of just stemming off of that. And then lastly, a couple other things, practicing trauma-informed language. Don't use words that infer something. Kind of give the power back to the student. And then also seeking out help from either their past teachers they've had, social workers, counselors. Something that my mentor gave me as a tip is that, we don't always get that information on their back personal story. So you're wondering why a kid's having so much of a hard time. And sometimes you have to go out of your way to find that information out within means. But because then if I had a kid come up from 5th grade and he had his 4th grade teacher. So I'd ask his 4th grade teacher, do you know any of his backstory, stuff like that? And that really helped out with some issues like that. So those are just a couple of my things that I wanted to point out and what I felt like was most important. But I think having a connection, a relationship with the student in a safe space are top priorities.
Mhm.
I couldn't agree. So we got t-shirts made at the end of the year because I am lucky. I teach alternative education. I teach psych, but I'm also with my students all day. And so we had t-shirts made and they decided our t-shirts at the end of the year, they say, in this class, we're family. And I mean, I might have burst into tears. It's totally normal. But these kids are like, they've all grown up together. Number one, they've all been through we've had a couple parents die. I mean, these kids have been through it together. And I was the newbie. So it took a while for them to, welcome me into their little family. But I will say, like, creating that space where they can just be who they are. If they're having a meltdown, we're all here for it. And we want you safe. And if you need to be in here and just cry, well, then that's what we'll do. And when you're ready, we're all right here. Or if you need to, punch something, well, please don't. But let's go outside and take a walk on the track and they can pick a safe person to go with. And, it definitely, I think that's amazing that, when kids can find a place, because I remember being in high school and yeah, I mean, it's fun. I liked high school. It wasn't horrible. It wasn't awesome. It was just high school. But you always knew those teachers that felt comfortable. You felt comfortable around or you wanted to be near. And I can tell that you guys are those teachers. Like, it's been just by the way the conversation has gone, you can tell like how much you care.
Are you surprised? I mean, I love it. I knew I would like it. My husband did T2T when we moved back to the States. We moved back to Royal King because his mom is here and she had Alzheimer's. So we didn't have choice. He was a software engineer for Northrop Grumman before that. So he came back, did T2T and taught. He teaches math and physics. So I knew I would like it. But I'm surprised every day by how much I love it. I mean, we get up at 5:30 to leave at 6:30 because it's an hour drive. And I still, every day, I'm just like, I get to go do this today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. I mean, people are like, you're getting a second degree. Didn't you graduate with your master's in like 2004? I'm like, I know. And they're like, why? I'm like, because I kind of love this job. Like, who knew? My friends are like, we miss you at home. Can we go play pickleball and have lunch? I'm like, I miss those days, but like, I kind of freaking love it.
Yeah.
I'm exhausted, but I love it.
It is exhausting. It's true.
It's all I've ever wanted to do. So it's like, this is such an awesome opportunity to not have to go back for a full-on master's, but just do like a 2-year stint. And you get to like teach and get paid to teach while you do it. So you actually get real world experience. Like, this is a better application of knowledge than my bachelor's. Why did I even get my bachelor's?
In some ways, I feel like this route of education for teachers is better than, the 4 years and then student teaching. Like, I love it this way. I'm really happy this happened for me.
Me too. What did you do before this?
What I do before this? I was a preschool teacher for 2 years.
Okay.
So after I graduated in 2019 with a Bachelor of Fine Arts, I stayed in Manhattan because my fiance was there, and I found a job as a preschool teacher. But during the summer, I helped out at the Beach Museum of Art teaching classes, and that's when I was like, maybe I could actually teach art. Maybe I couldn't just make it myself. Maybe I could help others make art. And
Right.
I fell in love with it and followed it ever since. And now I'm here. So yeah, I'm very happy to
awesome.
be in this
So
program.
you're a young one. I teach with a
Yes.
math teacher who, we sometimes do Mrs. James' age minus Miss Kennedy's age is 20. And so it sounds like that's what we would have to do.
I'm 25. Yes, I'm pretty young.
Okay, well, you're a whole year and a half older than my sweet math teacher that I hang out with now. We're friends, and my kids my own children who are in high school make fun of me because they're like, Mom, she's could be your kid. I'm like, nobody asked you.
And also, no, she couldn't mathematically unless it's a Gilmore Girls situation. And
Well,
like,
I've been married 21 years and she's 23. So
okay.
technically we've been dating long enough, but
It'd be
Well,
pushing.
I've been married 32 years, so I could be Hillary's mom.
Oh yeah, yeah. But when would you have had me? I'm bad at math, by the way.
I was 24 when we got married.
Oh,
that's legit. Okay, I'm with you
okay,
then.
so you could legitimately. Actually, yeah, you're the same age as my mom.
Thank you.
It's okay.
My actual kids are
Rachel's
23
mom.
and 20.
Rachel's mom, it's fine.
Yeah.
There you go.
But there are also teachers I teach with that could be my mom. So I feel like we have a lot to, I mean, sometimes they're like, oh, you're a first year teacher. I'm like, yes. So I think they look at me like, wait, why? Because you're not like Miss Kennedy Young. I'm like, new profession.
Career change.
But I think it definitely brings a different perspective as well. Like you said, Rachel, maybe I could teach instead of just create this stuff. And so you kind of, you only had what, a year or two out, but a year or two in the world is, you got to see, okay, I like this. How can I use this?
Yeah.
And so you decide to use it to teach, which I think is phenomenal. What's funny is my undergrad was in education until the last semester. All I had to do was student teach. And I said, I hate this.
Oh my God.
And
Are you serious? Because mine was too.
Yes.
Mine was too.
I skipped student teaching and went an extra semester and just got a degree in family studies because all I wanted to do was to be a therapist anyway. And in Oklahoma, to be a therapist, you had to be a teacher first. But then I ended up going private practice anyway, so it didn't matter. But long story long. So I was just like, oh, okay, well, if I don't have to be in the classroom, but to be a school counselor, then I'm going to switch degrees. So I did. And then I never even was in a school. So I'm like, and here we are. My husband was like, oh my gosh, we could have avoided I'm like,
My husband can't say anything because I was an LED, and in Colorado at the time, you had to have it was a 5-year degree at the time because you had to have a regular program plus your LED.
Okay.
And you had to do over 100 contact hours before student teaching started. So I did my contact hours in a very wealthy school district, and it was the year that they were integrating classrooms.
Oh, wow.
So they went from sped wings to integrated classrooms. And some of the yummy mummies were very awful. And I would come home at night and be angry and crying and, bringing all that home with me. And I wasn't a mom yet either. So I had no perspective for that side of it. I was just angry. And my husband said, you're gonna have to find something else to do. You can't be miserable all your life. This is making you miserable. So I went back, switched majors to accounting, got my degree in accounting, did the MBA thing, and went to work for Janice.
Isn't that crazy?
And now here I am. Yes, full circle. But he can't say anything to me because
right, because it was Brandon was just like, why? And I'm like, oh, it's fine. And then now he's like, he doesn't care. He's like, whatever, get another degree. Great.
Right.
But it's just comical because he was like, you could have just finished. I'm like, I could have. But I would have had to known 20 years ago that that's what I wanted to do, and I didn't want to. You grow with change, right? All right. Is there any?
Hillary, are you having computer issues?
She's muted, but I think she's having.
Like internet or something?
Yes. Her cute face is frozen.
Yes. It's a nice view of beautiful things.
Oh, darn.
You're so cute. I say that, you know.
Am I still frozen?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
Well, it could be a way. I mean, I guess we could wrap up,
Oh,
right?
shoot.
Probably.
Because I probably set it for only an
Well-
hour and a half. He's going to be like, this is the longest women talking that I've ever. Dr. McEwen, we are sorry. We thoroughly.
We're sorry, Dr. McEwen.
And we all. wanna
Literally
be on the
me,
wait list.
I'm sorry.
We all want to be on the wait list for all the classes. And we kind of wish we were in Mexico at the same time with you. I mean, every time.
I joined Doc my husband into retiring down there, Miss
Right?
Dr. McEwen. Yeah.
Oh, there you are, Rachel. There you are, Hillary.
Rachel's moving.
Okay. I went ahead and took the notes. And then I'm going to share them with everybody. So all you have to do is post like a copy of this and it's already done for you.
You're amazing. I'm going to
Oh.
share. So I'm going to copy this link to the recording on that document and then share that document with him.
Cool.
Right?
That's good.
Is that how I do that?
See, I told you, Hillary has her act together.
Can you be our school mom? That'd be great.
I'm already debate mom to all of my, because I coach and I teach debate and forensics. So the kids already call me mom. So honestly, like it's
Mama
fine.
James. I was going to say my BS. There, it's called Bobcat Success. Mama James.
That's funny.
I know. And they're
Okay,
already like, can we go back to
Rachel,
school?
what is your email? Because I'm having trouble.
Yeah,
I-
I don't know what's going on. So we'll just use my other email. It's kind of long, but
That's
I
fine.
just
I'm
put it in the
Oh, good.
chat
Okay,
because I
so-
had it.
thank you. Yes, that's it.
Yep.
Let's
Oh,
use
there it is.
that. I
Perfect.
don't know what's going on.
I'm sharing the document. So
Okay.
Oh, yes, because I shared it with the wrong one. Thank you.
here.
Okay, well, you guys are amazing teachers, and I'm glad we get to do this again. And
And this was fun. This is the most fun assignment I've had ever.
I know, me too.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
I
put my
hope
cell phone in this one. Rachel, we put them in the other when we, well, long story, but there was another Zoom.
Okay.
It's on now.
Here, let me put mine too.
So if you guys want to put your cell phone in there, just so if we have questions or concerns and or, hey, how are things? We can reach out to each other since we're all in different parts of the world. Where is Concordia? I feel like I've seen it on the highway.
It's directly, so it's closer to the Nebraska border. But it's like directly north of Salina.
Oh, that's where my
Oh,
baby
okay.
dog is from. She's from out near Belleville, Formosa.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I mean, I know that's really
Yeah. So I'm
important,
up in there. Yeah.
but my dog is
Hillary,
like,
are you frustrated? You look frustrated.
Oh no, I'm just that's
breathing
just
or
my
something?
face. That's just my face. I call it we call it resting sitting bull because you're just grumpy.
that's just
So-
my face.
That's just my face. Instead of resting bitch face, we say resting sitting bull. Because if you ever see pictures of sitting bull, he's just like so.
Oh, that's my new
I'm
favorite thing.
focused on something. I used to look so angry, and my kids are like, "Are you mad at me?" And I'm like, "No, I'm just trying to figure out how to email."
You could tell she was reading and like, yeah. I feel that way with technology every day. I'm like, I'm not mad. I'm kind of mad at the computer, but I'm not really mad.
I'm just mad at the inanimate object because it won't do what I
Yes.
want.
They're smarter than me most of the time. All right, loves. Have the best evening.
You too. Nice
Yeah,
meeting
so
all of
great
you.
to
Thank
meet
you.
all.
And if this doesn't post well, you can all drive to Oklahoma and punch me. Just kidding. I'll figure it out.
Tell your mom thanks for sharing you with us.
Oh yeah, well, yeah, she's good.
Yeah.
The baby dog is in the bed with me, so.
Oh,
Where's the baby? Hold on. Where's just the baby? See?
oh.
I mean, she's 8, but she's my baby.
Oh my gosh, this is the best Zoom call ever. Oh my god.
Right? Right?
Dr. McEwen. Okay. Thanks, ladies.
Thank you.